The human shuttles descended through the clouds of Korath like falling stars. Vala watched from the window as her homeworld grew larger and larger beneath her. She could see the floating cities, the ones that had not been destroyed, drifting peacefully through the blue sky. She could see the green forests and the silver seas. She could see everything she had feared she would never see again. Commander Tay sat beside her. He had insisted on being part of the first landing party. He wanted to set foot on this world that his people had saved. He wanted to meet the Korath face to face and show them that humans were not just warriors. They were friends. "It is beautiful," Tay said quietly. "I have seen many worlds in images and data, but seeing one in person is different. It feels real in a way that screens cannot capture." Vila nodded, but she could not speak. Her throat was too tight with emotion. In just a few minutes, she would be home. After 30 days of travel and fear, after nearly dying alone in space, after begging strangers for help, she would finally touch her own soil again. The shuttle landed in the central plaza of the capital city. It was a massive, open space, surrounded by towers that reached up toward the clouds. Thousands of Korath had gathered there, waiting to see the creatures who had saved them. When the shuttle doors opened, the crowd fell silent. Vila stepped out first. She raised her hand in greeting, and the silence broke into a roar of joy. Her people rushed toward her, surrounding her, reaching out to touch her, to make sure she was real. They were crying and laughing at the same time. A release of every fear and hope they had felt during the long nightmare. Then Tay stepped out, and the crowd grew quiet again. He was the first human to ever stand on Korath soil. He looked around at the silver-skinned people with their 4 eyes and 6-fingered hands. They looked so different from him. And yet, when he smiled, they saw something they recognized. They saw kindness. Vila took Tay's hand and raised it above her head. "This is Commander Tay of Earth," she called out. "He and his people crossed the stars to save us. They asked for nothing in return. They fought and died for us, strangers they had never met. This is what humans do." The crowd erupted again, but this time the cheers were for Tay. Korath hands reached out to touch him, to thank him, to welcome him. Children were lifted above the crowd to see the strange creature from another world. Elders who had never believed in aliens now wept with gratitude for them. Over the next few days, the celebrations continued. Human soldiers walked through Korath cities, amazed by the beauty they found there. Korath citizens approached them with gifts, with food, with endless thanks. Bonds formed between the two species, friendships that would last for generations. Admiral Hannah remained with the fleet, overseeing repairs and preparing for the long journey home. But she made time to visit the planet's surface once. She walked through the capital city with Vila as her guide, seeing the world she had fought to protect. "We lost 400 ships," Hannah said quietly. "Nearly 20,000 soldiers. They will not see their families again." Vila felt the weight of those numbers press against her heart. "I am sorry," she said. "We did not want anyone to die for us. We only wanted help." Hannah stopped walking and looked at her. "Do not apologize. Those soldiers knew what they were doing. They chose to come. They chose to fight. And they would choose the same again, every single one of them. That is what it means to be human. We do not count the cost when lives are at stake. We simply act." She looked up at the sky, where human ships still orbited like guardian stars. "My people spent many centuries fighting each other. We did terrible things. We have much to be ashamed of. But we also learned something important. The only thing that matters is what you do when someone needs help. Everything else is just noise." Vila was quiet for a long moment. Then she spoke. "I asked you once why you helped us. You said it was because we are people, and we are alive. But I think there is more to it than that. I think you helped us because you could not bear not to. It would have hurt you to walk away. Hana smiled, and for the first time, Viola saw softness in the Admiral's hard face. Perhaps you understand us better than we understand ourselves. A week later, the human fleet prepared to return to Earth. The repairs were complete. The wounded had been treated, and the dead had been honored with ceremonies on both worlds. It was time to go home. Vila stood in the plaza where Tay had first landed. Around her were thousands of her people, all gathered to say farewell to their saviors. The human soldiers were lined up in neat rows, ready to board their shuttles. Tay stood at the front, facing Vela. He held out his hand, and she took it. "Will you return?" she asked. "Will we see humans again?" Tay nodded. "We will. This is not an end. It is a beginning. Our people are connected now. We will trade with each other. We will learn from each other. And if anyone ever threatens you again, we will come back. That is our promise." Vila squeezed his hand. "And if anyone ever threatens Earth, the Korath will come. We may not have weapons like yours. We may not be warriors. But we will find a way to help. That is our promise." Tay smiled and let go of her hand. He turned and walked toward the waiting shuttle. But before he boarded, he looked back one last time. "Ambassador Vila," he called out. "Do you remember what I said to you when you first arrived on Earth?" Vila remembered. She would never forget. "You told me to look at the sky," she said. Tay pointed upward, toward the blue heavens where human ships were beginning to rise. "Look at it now. Tell me what you see." Vila raised her eyes. She saw the ships climbing toward the stars. She saw the clouds parting to let them pass. She saw a future she had not dared to dream of, a future where her people were no longer alone. "I see hope," she said quietly. Tay smiled one last time. Then he stepped into the shuttle, and the door closed behind him. The ships rose into the sky, growing smaller and smaller until they were just points of light against the blue. Vala watched them go, her 4 eyes wet with tears. Around her, her people watched too, their hands raised in farewell, their voices lifted in songs of thanks. The humans were gone, but they had left something behind. They had left their courage, their kindness, their impossible willingness to risk everything for strangers. They had left a mark on Korath that would never fade. And whenever any Korath looked at the sky from that day forward, they did not see emptiness anymore. They saw friends. They saw protectors. They saw humans. They saw hope. The direct commander saw the human fleet on his sensors and laughed. It was a harsh, ugly sound, like metal scraping against stone. His name was Var, and he had destroyed 17 worlds in his long career. He had never lost a battle. He had never even come close to losing. What are these things? He growled at his officers. Small ships. Primitive technology. They dare to challenge us? His second officer, a creature with scales and cold eyes, studied the data. "Commander, there are 8,000 of them. We only have 2,200 ships." Vor waved his clawed hand in dismissal. Numbers mean nothing. Quality means everything. One Drek warship is worth 10 of those fragile toys. Order the fleet to form attack formation. We will crush them quickly and then return to destroying this pathetic planet. The Drek ships moved into position, spreading out like the fingers of a massive claw. Their weapons powered up, glowing with deadly energy. They had conquered so many worlds that they no longer felt fear. They only felt hunger for more destruction, but this time would be different. Admiral Hana watched the enemy formation on her screen. She could see what they were doing. They were spreading out, trying to surround the human fleet, trying to attack from all sides at once. It was a good tactic against most enemies. But Hana had a better one. "All ships, execute pattern Delta 7, she commanded. "Fighter squadrons, launch on my mark." The human fleet responded instantly. Ships that had seemed to move randomly suddenly formed into tight groups, each group covering the others. And from the larger carriers, thousands of smaller fighter craft launched into space. Filling the void with streaks of light. Captain Wu led the first wave of fighters. His ship was small and fast, built for speed rather than power. He wove between the larger vessels, racing toward the enemy line. "All pilots, stay in formation," Wu said through his communicator. "Do not break off. Do not chase." We hit them together. The two fleets met in a storm of fire and light. Direct weapons lashed out, beams of pure energy that could cut through metal like paper. Human ships exploded, their crews dying in seconds. But for every human ship that fell, 3 more took its place. And the human weapons were finding their targets too. Missiles streaked across the void, their guidance systems locked onto Drek engines. Cannons fired in thunderous volleys, punching holes through enemy armor. Fighters swarmed around the larger Drek vessels like angry insects, striking at weak points, dodging return fire, dying and killing in equal measure. On the Eternal Dawn, Hana commanded the battle with cold precision. Her eyes moved across the screens, tracking every ship, every explosion, every death. She felt the weight of each loss, but she did not let it slow her. Grief could come later. Right now, there was only the fight. "The enemy center is weakening," Lieutenant Ho reported. "Their commander's ship is there. If we can break through." "I see it," Hana said. "All heavy cruisers, concentrate fire on the enemy flagship." "Captain Wu, I need your fighters to clear a path." Wu heard the order and smiled. "With pleasure, Admiral." He pushed his fighter to maximum speed, diving straight toward the heart of the Drek formation. Behind him, 200 pilots followed, their ships forming a wedge that cut through enemy fire like a blade through flesh. Drek fighters tried to stop them. The space around Wu filled with enemy craft, their weapons blazing. He twisted and rolled, dodging beams that would have killed him in an instant. His hands moved on the controls as if they had a mind of their own. He was not thinking anymore. He was simply flying, becoming one with his ship. An enemy fighter appeared directly ahead of him. Wu pressed the trigger and watched it explode. Another came from the left. He banked hard and destroyed that one too. They kept coming, and he kept killing them, his ship dancing through the chaos like it was the only place it belonged. "The path is clear," Wu shouted. "Heavy cruisers, fire now." 20 human cruisers locked their weapons onto Vior's flagship. They fired together, a wall of destruction that crossed the void in a heartbeat. Vor saw it coming. For the first time in his long life, he felt something cold grip his chest. It was fear. "Shields to maximum," he screamed. "Evasive maneuvers." But it was too late. The cruiser fire hit his ship with impossible force. The shields held for a moment, then shattered like glass. The hull tore open. Explosions rippled through the decks. Vor was thrown from his command chair, his body breaking against the metal walls. His ship, the pride of the Drek fleet, broke apart in a bloom of fire and debris. The death of their commander sent a shockwave through the Drek fleet. For a moment, they hesitated. For a moment, they stopped fighting. And in that moment, the humans struck with everything they had. Ships that had been holding back now surged forward. Weapons that had been waiting now fired. The Drek, so used to being the hunters, suddenly found themselves as prey. They tried to reform their lines, but the humans were everywhere, hitting them from every angle, giving them no time to think. "They are breaking," O shouted from his station. "The Drek are retreating." Hana watched the enemy ships turn and run. Some tried to jump to faster than light travel, but human cruisers cut them off, destroying their engines before they could escape. Others simply fled into deep space, abandoning their mission, abandoning their comrades, thinking only of survival. "Pursue them," Hana ordered. No mercy. They came here to destroy. They do not get to leave. The chase lasted for 3 hours. By the end, the Drek fleet was gone. Some had been destroyed. Some had escaped into the darkness. But their blockade was broken. Their commander was dead. And the sky above Korath was finally clear. On the planet below, the Korath people had watched the battle through their telescopes and sensors. They had seen the flashes of light, the explosions, the strange ships fighting in their sky. They had not known who was winning. They had only known that something was happening. When the last Drek ship disappeared, a signal came from the human fleet. It was broadcast on all frequencies, so every Korath could hear it. People of Korath, Admiral Hana's voice said, calm and steady. This is Admiral Hana of the United Earth Fleet. Your ambassador reached us. She asked for our help. And we came. The Drek are gone. You are safe. There was silence for a moment. Then, across the entire planet, a sound rose up. It was cheering. It was crying. It was a million voices speaking at once, releasing the fear they had held for so long. Vila stood on the bridge of the eternal dawn, tears streaming down her face. She looked out at her homeworld, free from the shadow that had covered it. She looked at the humans around her, these strange, brave creatures who had crossed the stars to save strangers, and she knew that the universe would never be the same. The fleet moved through the darkness between stars like a river of steel and fire. 8,000 human warships, each one carrying hundreds of soldiers, crossed the endless void toward a world they had never seen. They traveled faster than light itself, bending space around them, jumping from point to point in flashes of brilliant energy. On the flagship Eternal Dawn, Admiral Hana stood at the great window of the bridge and watched the stars blur past. She had not slept much in the last 3 days. Her mind was too busy planning, calculating, preparing for what was to come. The Drek were an unknown enemy. She did not know their weapons. She did not know their tactics. She only knew that they had destroyed countless worlds, and they intended to destroy another. Captain Wu approached her with a tablet in his hands. Admiral, we have received more information from Ambassador Vila. She has told us everything she knows about the Drek. Hana took the tablet and studied the images. The Drek ships were ugly things, built only for destruction. They had no beauty, no grace, nothing that suggested their makers cared about anything except killing. They were covered in weapons, cannons, missile launchers, energy beams. Each ship was a machine of pure violence. How many ships do they have surrounding Korath? Hana asked. Approximately 2,000, Wu replied. But Vela believes there may be more coming. The Drek do not send their full force immediately. They send enough to win, then call for more if needed. Hana nodded slowly. 2,000 enemies against 8,000 humans. On paper, it seemed like an easy victory. But Hana had been a soldier too long to believe in easy victories. Something always went wrong. Something always surprised you. The key was to be ready for surprises. Tell the captains to prepare for battle, she said. We arrive at Korath in 4 days. I want everyone sharp. I want everyone focused. No mistakes. Wu saluted and hurried away to deliver the orders. In her small room below the bridge, Vela sat alone and thought about her home. The doctors had helped her recover her strength, and she could walk normally again. But her mind was still heavy with fear. What if she was too late? What if the Drek had already started killing her people? What if she returned only to find ashes and silence? There was a knock at her door. Come in, she said. Commander Tay entered. He had chosen to travel with the fleet instead of staying on Earth. He wanted to see this mission through to the end. He wanted to stand on Korra soil and know that he had helped save a world. How are you feeling? He asked. Vela tried to smile, but it was weak. I am afraid, she admitted. "I keep thinking about what might be happening back home. Every moment we travel, the Drek could be attacking. Every moment I am not there, my people could be dying." Tay sat down across from her. His face was calm, but she could see understanding in his eyes. He knew what fear felt like. Every soldier did. "I cannot promise you that nothing bad has happened," he said honestly. "I cannot promise you that everyone is safe. War is cruel, and it does not wait for us to be ready. But I can promise you this: we will fight. Whatever we find when we arrive, we will fight. And we will win." Vila looked at him. "How can you be so certain?" Tay was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke. "Long ago, on Earth, humans fought many wars against each other. We were not united then. We were divided into nations, and those nations battled for power and land and pride. Millions died. Cities burned. It was a dark time." He leaned forward. "But we learned something from all that pain. We learned that war is not about numbers or weapons. War is about will. It is about how much you are willing to sacrifice. And humans, when they believe in something, will sacrifice everything. The Drek have never faced an enemy like us. They conquer worlds that cannot fight back. They are used to easy victories. They will not find one here." Vela felt something stir in her chest. It was small, fragile, but real. It was hope. "Thank you," she whispered. Tay stood and walked to the door. Before he left, he looked back at her. "Rest now. When we arrive, I will need you by my side. Your people will need to see you. They will need to know that their ambassador brought the storm." The fleet jumped out of faster-than-light travel on the edge of the Korath system. The ships appeared in a flash of blue energy, forming a wall of metal and purpose. Sensors came alive, scanning the space around them, searching for enemies. "Report." Admiral Hana commanded. Lieutenant Ho, a young officer with sharp eyes, studied his screens. "I see them, Admiral. The direct fleet is in orbit around Korath. Approximately 2,200 ships. They have formed a blockade around the planet. Nothing is getting in or out." Hana walked closer to the main screen. The image showed the Korath homeworld, a beautiful planet of blue seas and white clouds. But surrounding it, like vultures around a dying animal, were the Drek ships. They hung in space, dark and menacing, waiting to finish their conquest. "Have they seen us?" Hana asked. "Not yet," Ho replied. "We are still outside their sensor range. But if we move closer, they will detect us." Hana smiled. It was not a warm smile. It was the smile of a hunter who had found her prey. "Let them detect us. I want them to see us coming. I want them to count our ships. I want them to understand what is about to happen." She pressed a button on her console, opening a channel to the entire fleet. "All ships, this is Admiral Hana. We have arrived at Korath. The enemy is ahead of us. In a few hours, we will engage them in battle. Many of us may die, but that is the price we pay for doing what is right." Her voice grew harder. "The Drek think they can destroy whoever they want. They think the universe belongs to them. Today, we teach them differently. Today, we show them what happens when they threaten a species under human protection. Today, we make them afraid." Across 8,000 ships, soldiers listened to her words. They checked their weapons. They strapped into their seats. They said silent prayers to whatever gods they believed in. And they prepared to fight. On the bridge, Captain Wu turned to Hana. His eyes were bright with anticipation. "Your orders, Admiral?" Hana looked at the image of the Drek fleet one last time. Then she spoke the words that would begin the battle. "All ships, full speed ahead. Show them the sky is no longer theirs." The fleet surged forward, engines blazing, weapons charging. 8,000 human warships moved as one, a tide of steel and fury, racing toward an enemy that had never known defeat. But defeat was coming. and it wore a human face. The ship came through the darkness of space like a wounded bird. It was small, barely larger than a human shuttle, and its engines were dying. Smoke trailed behind it, and its metal skin was burned and torn. Inside the ship sat Ambassador Vela, the last hope of her people. Vela was not human. She had 4 eyes, 2 on each side of her long face, and her skin was the color of pale silver. Her hands had 6 fingers each, and they shook as she held the controls. She had traveled for 30 days across the cold emptiness between stars. She had not slept. She had barely eaten. All she could think about was her home, her people, and the monsters that were killing them. The Korath had lived in peace for 1,000 years. They were builders, not fighters. They made beautiful cities that floated in the clouds of their world. They created art and music that could make even stones weep. But they had never learned to make weapons. They had never needed to. Until the Drek came. The Drek were a species of war. They moved from world to world, taking everything and leaving nothing. They had no mercy. They had no kindness. They only had hunger, and that hunger was endless. When their ships appeared in the sky above Korath, Vela knew her people would die. They had no army. They had no fleet. They had only hope, and hope was not enough. But there was one chance. Far across the galaxy, on a small blue planet, lived a species that the Korath had heard stories about. They were called humans. The stories said many things about them. Some said they were weak and short-lived. Some said they were dangerous and unpredictable. But all the stories agreed on one thing. When humans fought, they fought like nothing else in the universe. Vala had begged the council to let her go. "Let me find them," she had said. "Let me ask for their help." The council had been afraid. What if the humans were worse than the Drek? What if they wanted payment the Korath could not give? But in the end, they had no choice. The Drek would arrive in 40 days. Either Vela would bring help, or everyone would die. Now her ship was falling toward Earth. And Vela prayed to every god she knew. Commander Tay stood in the control room of a United Earth space station and watched the screens. He was a tall man with broad shoulders and calm eyes. He had been a soldier for 20 years, and he had seen many things. But he had never seen anything like the ship that was now entering Earth's atmosphere. "Sir," said Lieutenant Una, a young woman with short black hair and quick hands. "The ship is not human. Its design is completely unknown. Should we shoot it down?" Tay was quiet for a moment. He watched the ship struggle through the sky. It was clearly damaged. It was clearly not a threat. And yet, this was the first time any alien species had ever come to Earth. The universe had suddenly become much larger. "No," Tay said finally. "Let it land. But send a team to meet it. I want soldiers, translators, and doctors. We do not know what is on that ship, but we will find out." The ship crashed more than landed. It hit the ground in a field outside Seoul and dug a long trench through the grass and dirt. When the soldiers arrived, they found the door already open. A figure stumbled out and fell to its knees. Vela looked up at the humans surrounding her. They were so strange, with their 2 eyes and their 5-fingered hands. They held weapons she did not recognize. But they did not fire. They only watched. One of them stepped forward. He was older than the others, with gray in his hair and kindness in his face. His name was Day, and he was the leader of the ground team. "Can you understand me?" Day asked. He spoke slowly and clearly. Vela touched a small device on her neck. It clicked and hummed. "Yes," she said, her voice rough and tired. "I can understand. I have a translator. Please, I need to speak to your leaders. My people are dying." Day looked at her for a long moment. Then he reached down and offered her his hand. "Can you walk?" he asked. Vela took his hand. His skin was warm. "I can try," she said. They took her to the space station, flying high above the clouds. Vela watched through the window as the blue planet turned below her. It was beautiful. So much water. So much green. She wondered if her own world would ever be this peaceful again. Commander Tay was waiting for her when she arrived. He stood in a large room with windows that showed the stars. Behind him sat the members of the United Earth Council, the leaders of humanity. They were men and women from many different lands, with many different faces. But they all watched Vela with the same expression, curiosity mixed with caution. Vela walked to the center of the room. Her legs were weak, but she forced them to hold her. She would not fall. She could not fall. Too many lives depended on her standing. "My name is Vela," she said. "I am the ambassador of the Korath people. I have come to ask for your help." The room was silent. Tay sat down in his chair and folded his hands. "Tell us," he said. "Tell us everything." And so Vela told them. She told them about the Korath and their beautiful world. She told them about the Drek and their endless war. She told them about the ships that now surrounded her planet, blocking out the stars. She told them about the millions of her people who waited in fear, not knowing if they would live or die. When she finished, tears were falling from her 4 eyes. She did not wipe them away. She let them fall. "Please," she whispered. "We have nothing to offer you. We have no weapons, no army, no way to repay you. But we are good people. We do not deserve to die. If you have any kindness in your hearts, help us. Help us, and I will spend the rest of my life thanking you." The council members looked at each other. Some of them seemed moved. Some of them seemed uncertain. War was expensive. War was dangerous. Why should humanity risk itself for a species it had never met? But Tay did not look at the council. He looked at Vela. He saw her exhaustion. He saw her fear. He saw her hope. And he made a decision. He smiled. "Ambassador Vela," he said, "look at the sky." Vela did not understand. She turned toward the window. She saw stars. She saw darkness. She saw nothing unusual. "I do not understand," she said. "What am I supposed to see?" Tay's smile grew wider. "You will," he said. "You will." Vela stared out the window at the empty darkness. She saw the stars burning cold and distant. She saw the black void between them. She saw nothing that would save her people. Her heart sank deeper into despair. "I see nothing," she said to Commander Tay. "I see only stars. Is this a joke? Are you mocking me?" Tay did not answer. He simply pressed a button on the arm of his chair. "Admiral Hana," he said into the communicator, "uncloak the fleet." For a moment, nothing happened. Vela watched the window, confusion and fear mixing in her mind. She was about to speak again when the sky changed. It started slowly. A shimmer, like heat rising from hot stone. Then another shimmer. Then another. And then, like ghosts becoming solid, the ships appeared. They were everywhere. Hundreds of them. Thousands of them. They filled the darkness like a swarm of metal stars. Each one was massive, bristling with weapons, glowing with power. They had been there all along, hidden, waiting, silent. And now they revealed themselves, and the sight took Vela's breath away. 10,000 ships, Tay said quietly. The largest fleet humanity has ever assembled. We built them in secret over the last 5 years. We knew someday something would come from the stars. We wanted to be ready. Vela could not speak. Her 4 eyes moved from ship to ship, trying to count them, trying to believe what she was seeing. Her translator device clicked and hummed, but she had no words for it to translate. "You already knew," she finally whispered. "You knew we would come. You knew we would need help. Tay shook his head. No, we did not know about you or your people. We did not know about the Drek. We simply knew that the universe is large and dangerous. We knew that if we waited to prepare until danger arrived, it would be too late. So we prepared anyway. A woman's voice came through the communicator. It was calm and confident, the voice of someone who had commanded ships through fire and chaos. Commander Tay, the fleet is fully visible. All ships report ready, awaiting orders. Thank you, Admiral Hannah, Tay replied. Hold position for now. Vela turned to face him. Her legs finally gave out, and she sank to her knees on the floor. But this time, she was not falling from weakness. She was falling from relief. For the first time in 30 days, she felt something other than fear. Why? She asked. Why would you help us? We have nothing to give you. We are strangers. We are nothing to you. Tay stood from his chair and walked to her. He crouched down so that his eyes were level with hers. His face was serious, but there was warmth in it. There was something she had not seen in a long time. Hope. You are not nothing, he said. You are people. You are alive. You came across the stars, alone and afraid, to ask for help. That takes courage. That takes faith. You believe that somewhere in this cold universe, there might be someone who would care. And you were right. He reached out and gently lifted her chin. The Korath are not strangers anymore. From this moment forward, you are our friends. And we do not let our friends die. Vela wept. She could not help it. The tears fell from all four of her eyes, and she did not try to stop them. She wept for her people, for her world, for the nightmare that had consumed her life. And she wept for these strange, warm, impossible creatures who had just promised to save everything she loved in the fleet above Earth. Admiral Hannah stood on the bridge of her flagship. The Eternal Dawn. She was a small woman, but her presence filled any room she entered. Her hair was pulled back tight, and her uniform was spotless. She had fought in 3 wars and won them all. The soldiers under her command loved her and feared her in equal measure. Status report, she said. Captain Wu stepped forward. He was young, barely 30 years old, but he was one of the best pilots in the fleet. He had flown through asteroid fields, outrun missiles, and landed ships on planets that were actively trying to kill him. Nothing scared him anymore. All 10,000 ships are fully armed and ready, Wu reported. Fuel reserves are at maximum. Weapon systems are online. The crews are eager, Admiral. They have been waiting for this moment. Hannah nodded slowly. And the jump drives? Fully charged. We can reach the Korath system in 7 days if we push the engines hard. 7 days. Hannah thought about what was happening on that distant world right now. The Drek ships circling like vultures. The Korath people huddled in fear. Mothers holding children. Elders praying to gods that seemed to have abandoned them. Every hour that passed was another hour of suffering. Every hour of suffering. We leave in 6 hours, Hannah said. I want every ship ready. No delays. No excuses. Wu smiled. It was a fierce smile, the smile of a warrior who had finally found a fight worth fighting. Yes, Admiral. It will be done. In the council chamber, the discussions continued. Some of the members were still unsure. A woman named Yoon, who represented the Eastern Alliance, stood and spoke. Commander Tay, I do not disagree with helping these people. But we must be practical. Sending our entire fleet leaves Earth defenseless. What if this is a trap? What if the Drek are using the Korath to lure us away? Tay listened patiently. He understood her fear. It was a reasonable fear, but he had already considered it. We are not sending the entire fleet to fight, he explained. 2,000 ships will remain to guard Earth. The rest will go to Korath. And as for the trap, he gestured toward Vila, who was now sitting in a chair, still recovering. Look at her. Does she look like she is lying? Does she look like she is part of a scheme? She nearly died reaching us. She has nothing left to give except her trust. Yoon looked at Vila. The ambassador met her gaze without flinching. There was no deception in those 4 eyes. There was only pain and hope and exhaustion. Very well, Yoon said finally. I will support this mission. But if things go wrong, the responsibility falls on you, Commander. Tae nodded. I accept that responsibility. I accepted it the moment I saw her ship falling from the sky. Vila stood slowly. Her strength was returning, fed by the impossible sight of the fleet outside the window. She walked to Tae and placed her 6-fingered hand on his arm. Thank you, she said. I do not have words big enough for what you are doing, but I will find them. Someday, I will find the words. Tae placed his hand over hers. You do not need words, he said. You need rest. We have a long journey ahead of us, and you will need your strength. When we reach your world, I want you standing beside us. Your people should see that you did not fail them. You found help. You brought us. He guided her toward the door. A doctor named Sora was waiting outside, ready to take care of her. Sleep, Tae said. When you wake, we will be on our way. And when you next look at the sky above your world, you will not see the Drek. You will see us. Vila walked away with Sora, but she looked back one last time. Through the window, she could still see the fleet, vast and powerful, waiting in the darkness. She finally understood what Tae had meant. The sky was not empty anymore. The sky was full of hope.